Okay, I am super excited about this one. This here in front of me is a vintage TV tray. What I did was I simply just unsnapped it from the legs, and we are going to do a makeover on this TV tray and make it more festive with this. Look at this. How cute is this little gingerbread? This gingerbread man and house and tree. So we're going to put this onto the vintage TV tray. We're going to do this one with chalk paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this to the side, and we're going to start painting it. So I'm going to have to trim out the sides. I could actually tape it too, but it's just as easy to do this. Depending on what kind of coverage this chalk paint is going to give me over this tray will depend on if I need 1 or 2 coats of paint. It's kind of hard to tell right now with the trim. I generally always do 2 coats just to be safe, because we certainly don't want this farm scene coming through to our gingerbread house. Always when using chalk paint, you want to make sure, that you start with a nice clean surface, and I had already prepped this. It's nice and clean and ready to accept the chalk paint. Any brand of chalk paint is fine. Use whatever you prefer. All right, I better get my glasses on so I can see. These paint inlays you all are going to love. And again, like I said earlier, they're in smaller chunks, and they're going to be a lot easier to use, and you probably won't feel as intimidated, especially if you haven't tried the paint inlay yet. These will be perfect for you to start with. And another thing to think about is if you happen to do resale, you know that the paint inlays you can use a few times, so you can make a few different signs. Some will be a little bit less paint on the paint inlay, but it'll still make a nice impression. Okay, so I have trimmed up pretty good. Give it a once over. It does have pretty good coverage. This brand that I use is good coverage, but just to be safe, I'm just going to give it 1 coat, let that dry, and then I'll stick the paint inlay on with a 2nd coat. So we put the first coat of white paint on, and if you remember, we're going to put the gingerbread bakery right on here. So I need to go ahead and put some more of the white chalk paint on. You can see with the 2nd coat of the paint, you have less brush strokes and you have better coverage. Okay, I'm trying to make sure that there's a nice even coat. All right, I'm going to go back and add just a little bit more paint, not too much, but I want to make sure that there is enough paint for that paint inlay to make an impression on. Some people refer to them as furniture tattoos, which I really like that analogy, because we all know what tattoos are. When you lick it and stick it and then put the water on it, hold it, peel it off, and it stays on your hand or your shoulder when you were a kid. It's basically the same concept, except for chalk paint is your medium. All right, here we go. Again, look how cute he is. Even the candy canes are brilliant. The bright red. All right, let's put this on. I'm going to start in the middle and then go out. Applying some firm pressure. And I can tell that I did not use too much paint because it is not sliding, which is a good thing. I really just need to make sure that the parts for the paint inlay are what is pushed into the paint. Nice firm press. Making sure I press on every part that I want to stay in my white paint. And there we go. So let's go ahead and get it wet so we can release the paper. Okay, I have a little blue on my hand, so I'm hoping I'm not going to get any other white paint. If so, I'll just either paint over it or sand it down. Here we go. Now can you see those little streaks of paint there? That is where the paint was a little bit thicker. I didn't maybe necessarily get it really well with the brayer or when I was using my rag, or there was just simply too much paint there and it just pooled up there. It does not harm the design at all, but it will be there when you use the gingerbread paint inlay on another piece, so keep that in mind. Unless, of course, you're using white, then it won't matter. But if you're going to be putting on a different color, those white lines will show up on your second imprint. But look! I'm so excited. These inlays are just amazing. Look at that. Let me stick this down, then I'm going to get it up close. Now look how beautiful this is. So you can see where the paint pulled up and stuck to the paper. That's just because I put it on a little thick. That's okay. That doesn't bother me enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back with my little tiny paintbrush and some white paint, the same white paint, and I'm just going to fill in some of the area. It won't be perfect, but it'll disguise them just a little bit. And you don't have to do this. I'm just showing you that you can do this if you want to. Okay, so we'll let this dry and then we'll give it a spray with our varnish or a 50-50 clear coat. Okay, so now I have already filled in some of the gaps where the paint came off of the paper and I'm ready to spray it with a spray varnish. You can use 50-50 water clear coat or the spray varnish. Whatever you're using, you just want to make sure it's nice and light, just enough to give it a little bit of protection before you brush on your clear coat or your wax. So the vintage TV tray has the new paint inlay on it. It's been sealed, but I want to do just a little bit more to this because it just needs something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour resin on the top and then probably mix in a little bit of glitter. So let's go ahead and get started with mixing our resin. What's very important is I'm a firm believer that you should always follow the warning labels on a product. There would not be a warning label on there if it wasn't serious. So I know in resin it says to wear gloves and be in a well-ventilated area, and I'm going to do both. All right, so I'm not using quick set resin because if I was doing that, it would turn white. I'm going to be using the resin that will turn clear after it's on. I'm going to go ahead and mix some of that up. It doesn't matter what brand resin you use. Everybody has a favorite. But whatever you do, make sure you follow the directions on them. Most of them are equal parts. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this, and then we'll pour it on. Okay, so my resin is all mixed up, and now I'm going to go ahead and pour it on top of the paint inlay. And remember, the paint inlay has been sealed. I'm going to save a little bit in here just because I want to make sure that I have some to cover the glitter after I put it on. And I'm just going to use my gloves here to help spread it out. You can use a spreader, but since I have my gloves on, my hands are protected, and I get a good feel for it. Okay, I'm going to need some more over here real quick. I'm going to run my fingers around the edges to make sure I have a nice coverage over the whole. And I'm just using everyday red glitter. And I chose red because red is on this in these little areas, so it'll look really cute. So I'm just going to sprinkle some on here. I'm just adding a little bit here, a little bit there. Okay, so now I still have one glove on. If I want to spread the glitter out a little bit, I can. If I want to add a little bit more, I can. I also have these big chunks of gold. I'm not sure how they're going to look, so I'm just going to sprinkle some down here, and let's just take a peek. I'll just put some in here in my hand. These are the big ones, so we'll just maybe line the bottom. There we go. So it kind of looks like snow. A little bit more. Is there such thing as too much glitter? All right. Let me just see that down there. All right. I feel like it needs a little bit more red glitter, so we're going to go ahead and do that real quick. I just have this little container here that I'm pouring some in. This one doesn't have, I don't have my shaker top open, so I'm just kind of spreading it myself. You don't have to use this much, but it'll look pretty when it dries. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my baby wipe. Let me grab it real quick. And I'm just going to clean up the edges and get the extra resin off the tray. And then we let it sit. It generally takes about 24 hours to set, so we'll let it set, and then we'll put it back on the legs of the vintage TV tray, and we will show how it turned out.